Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, President Russell Marion Nelson, a.k.a. baby name meaning Lucifer, Red Star, the Mars, husband of Venus, Lucifer. You can't just hide things just because you don't like them. Got at the pulpit of conference and told us on 2 occasions, April 2018's Solemn Assembly General Conference, his premiere episode, and in October 2022, in which he says, in the coming days, you'll see the greatest manifestations of the Lord's power that the world has ever seen before the time of his second coming. And so there's prophecies by Joseph Smith concerning the latter days, but most of it is hidden from the eyes of Mormons because Brigham Young turned Joseph Smith into Christian with Jesus as the Christ. And so Mormons have a stumbling block on seeing and understanding the revelations of the Book of Mormon and of Joseph Smith. It's a different interpretation. Joseph Smith is in the learning of the Jews. And if you're unclear as to how this happens, open up your Book of Mormon. 1 Nephi, chapter 1, verse 2. Ta-da! Learning of the Jews means it's not another testament of Jesus Christ. Real simple, all Mormons miss it. And they get mad at me as they live in denial. How dare you? I study my scriptures. I know that Jesus Christ lives. Really? You saw him? It's a spiritual witness. Then I don't believe you. Go to Missouri. It's a show me state. And so the prophets of Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, etc., talk about the latter days and the coming of Jesus as a real physical manifestation. Oops. Sorry, Mormons. You got conned. And so there's the prophecies specifically of Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball that we are going to focus on in this video. And that is the call of the missionaries to come home. In the Journal of Discourses, Volume 8, page 123, July 15th, 1860. Thank you, josephsmithfoundation.org, for making this easy for me, rather than to go through my files and find that particular sermon that I have in my collection. And so, yes, I come from a position of knowledge, Mormons. Oh no. Let's vilify Travis. Let's name call him. That'll prove that we're true. And so, yes, I know all about the church. I know all about the fraud of Brigham Young because he confesses. And you don't know this because you don't study. He's your prophet, and you won't study him. I study him. He was my prophet until I found out he was a fraud. Now I know him because I know my enemy. Either way, you're supposed to know things. Knowledge prevents you from being a sucker and a loser to con men who are trying to harm you. And so this is what they selected out from his talk in 1860. Do you think there is calamity abroad now among the people? Not much. All we have yet heard, and all we have experienced, is scarcely a preface to the sermon that is going to be preached. Pay attention. When the testimony of the elders ceases to be given, and the Lord says to them, "Come home. I will now preach my own sermons to the nations of the earth." So now that we know it's the latter days, then we're supposed to have, according to Brigham Young, the Lord among us. And he's going to call the missionaries home. He's going to say the words, "Come home." But Brigham Young is thinking Jesus Christ, as he's leading Mormons to believe it's Jesus Christ, not the learning of the Jews' Christ of Joseph Smith, who will be a human mortal born and raised in Brigham Young's church. I've got more Deuteronomy stuff for you today. Oh my God. Did you not study? That's where the Jewish Christ is. And it's all over the Book of Mormon, all over Joseph Smith. All over. I just did the video the other day about the Book of Mormon in connection to the law of the Jews, Deuteronomy. Okay? And so Mormons are thinking, oh, Jesus is going to come. How's he going to preach to the nations of the earth? Is he going to be at the pulpit of conference? Or is it going to be a YouTube channel in which the Mormon YouTube employee will say, "You're not my Jesus," and throttle his channel uploads, hide them, rig the algorithms to prevent other people from finding them? Jesus is silenced. Oh my God. Oh, it's so funny because it's so true. And so, yeah, I mean, Mormons have to create a scenario for how it's going to happen. And with our current knowledge of technology and stuff, we're waiting to see how it's going to be played out. But Mormons aren't looking for Joseph Smith's Christ. They're not looking for a Mormon to get on a YouTube channel, because he's not going to be a prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He's going to be a regular human being, shunned and outcast and tortured and attempted assassinations by the great and abominable church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is Joseph's version of events that Mormons have blinders on because of Christian Jesus. Because they turn all of those prophecies into literal history that happened way back in the Roman period time. And so what Brigham Young is not telling Mormons is that this future Mormon will get on a YouTube channel and tell Mormons on his video, "Come home." He continues, "All of you now know can scarcely be called a preface to the sermon that will be preached with fire and sword. Yes, sword. That's how it's spelled. It's sword. Tempests, earthquakes, hail, rain, thunders, lightning. Knock, knock, knock on wood. And fearful destruction. What matters? The destruction of a few railway cars? You will hear, his linguistic pattern is not mine. I'm struggling with this. You will hear of magnificent cities now idolized by the people, sinking in the earth, entombing the inhabitants. The sea will heave itself beyond its bounds, engulfing mighty cities. Famine will spread over the nations, and nation will rise up against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and states against states. In our own country and in foreign lands. And when you understand that he's part of the plot, this should scare you. And so, as Armageddon has happened, as the world is defending the terrorists against Israel, even in the United States of America, we are knowing now that this will be that war, that destruction. It's coming. And we have no Jack Bauer to save us. And you notice that despite Brigham Young telling us that in the future, Jesus is going to tell Mormons to come home from your mission because there's mass chaos and destruction, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Jesus does not stop the war. But in the book that I've put away, that I've been using for years, since 2021 when I found it, and then went and bought it, I also, since I did the video on Avraham Gileadi, I decided I'd better buy his book. So that's coming eventually, maybe. Depends on when the day that shall burn as an oven is. The day of judgment. Or the day of rage that Islam is talking about. For their Friday replacement prayer, with the addition of Muhammad's words for a day of rage, Judgment Day. The day that shall burn as an oven. And Joseph Smith added to Malachi, they that come shall burn them. It's Islam. So I told you, there's a 9/11 coming for Black Friday, shopping day. And if you're wondering, well, why then? Well, what are typical Americans doing on Black Friday? Recovering from getting drunk on Thanksgiving? They're shopping. That's a national pastime. And the Islamic world hate the westernized culture because it takes Islam away from Allah. It indoctrinates their members away from Allah. You know, Islam has there for strength of the youth. And if they got their kids getting taught and educated and influenced by the culture of Western society, which is shopping, TikTok, it takes them away from their religion. And so, yes, authoritarian religions tell their members at the pulpit of General Conference, get off your cell phones. Cell phones are addictive. We need to make a law in our state to ban social media from children. It harms them. It's addictive. It's porn. So look for a religion where their president will get at the pulpit of conference and tell the members to do that. You will know they're the false church. Okay? So that's Brigham Young, living prophet of Jesus. So, despite contradictions about Jesus stopping the war, establishing peace, he doesn't. Why? Well, because he's human. He has no magical supernatural powers. Now, President Heber C. Kimball, as quoted by J. Golden Kimball in his October conference, 1930, and then by the Deseret News Church Department, May 23rd, 1931, page 3. It's reported originally by Amanda H. Wilcox. The prophetic sayings of Heber C. Kimball to Sister Amanda H. Wilcox. Okay? And so, yes, I have the full document of this. I've done videos on this. Attest. That's this. He says, the judgments of God. Judgment day. Day that shall burn as an oven. They that come shall burn them. Okay? Will be poured out upon the wicked. It's the whole earth, Heber. To the extent that our elders from far and near will be called home. Or in other words, the gospel will be taken from the Gentiles and later on will be carried to the Jews after they're converted, when Jesus stands on the Mount of Olives and the earthquake parts it into a valley, and the surviving Jews from the current war will pass through and see Jesus and say, hey, come to my BYU Jerusalem Center. It's abandoned right now, so we're going to have to dust it and get some people to work in the kitchen, and we'll teach you all about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because we're not anti-Semites. Jesus is not an anti-Semite. And so then he talks about the destruction in Missouri, wagging his dog like a yellow tail. That comes from July 1840, by the way. This is where he gets it from. What do you mean 19 July 1840, Travis? Again, are you not looking at the Joseph Smith papers? You claim you study, you claim you know all about things, and you don't. You're just a lazy learner, a lax disciple. And you don't even know where I got that from. Game, set, match. And so, yeah, he then talks about the test. The pressure will become so great that the righteous among us, and he's talking about in the valley of the Jolly Green Giant, will cry unto the Lord day and night until deliverance comes. This valley, Heber C. Kimball is prophesying of an attack. It will not be Zion. It will not be a place of safety, peace, and refuge. And remember, he's the bad guy that plotted this. They set you up. This valley is perfectly positioned as a kill pit. And I warned you that they that come shall burn them. Joseph Smith is talking to you, Mormons, in this valley. As I told you, Islam, for some reason, chose this Utah Valley to have a high concentration of Islamic centers. The rest of the United States does not have as high a concentration as Utah. It's blatantly obvious on the Google map. They are planning an attack in Utah. We are waiting for that day that shall burn as an oven, and they that come shall burn the Mormons in this valley. And Heber C. Kimball tells you this. This will not be Zion. This will not be the place of safety, peace, and refuge. He's getting it from 19 July 1840, which Joseph Smith tells us, and Heber won't. The actual location for Zion is southern Illinois. And so then the josephsmithfoundation.org gives you other, Parley P. Pratt, or Orson Pratt, sorry. And then the Matthew 24:14, where it says, "And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come." And then the Joseph Smith Matthew, which is the same thing, but adds, "And again, this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come, or the destruction of the wicked." And so, since we're here, and it's just Orson Pratt's additional information, we'll give that to you too. So this is brand new for me too. It's in the Journal of Discourses, volume 18, so I do have it, but I have the full journal, and so I'd have to go through, and it'd be harder to find. Brigham Young's I have all separated out. And I think, didn't I get help with Heber C. Kimball's talks too? I think I did. I think I have his too. Volume 18, page 64, July 25th, 1875. When Gog and Magog, Zod, hilarious scene. God help us. No, Zod. When God has called out the righteous. Again, this is not my manner of speech. When God has called out the righteous. Notice, I don't have as much problems with Joseph Smith's words. No, I am not the reincarnation, dumbasses. Wrong religion. When God has called out the righteous, when the warning voice has been sufficiently proclaimed among Gentile nations, and the Lord says, "It is enough," he will also say to his servants, "O ye my servants, come home. Come out from the midst of these Gentile nations, where you have labored and borne testimony for so long a period. Come out from among them, for they are not worthy." Wrong doctrine, Orson. But this is how the enemy sees things. Islam sees Western culture as heathen, infidels, apostate whores. And thus unworthy. And in order to protect their members, they must utterly destroy us from the face of the earth. And thus it is abominable that the Red Cross and the UN are demanding to give aid and comfort to only the Palestinians. They're not going to give aid and comfort to Israel after the Hamas attack that started it all. The whole world is against Israel now, as they're beginning to forget that Hamas slaughtered the Israelis. They do not receive the message that I have sent forth. Right, Mormons? See, this is where Beam in the Moat kicks in. Orson Pratt, by accusing the world prematurely, pre-curse, is condemning the Mormons. They do not repent of their sins. What sins are Mormons committing? Well, you're worshiping the wrong Christ. You're following false prophets. You're being extorted by them. They're blatantly committing crimes, and you just let it go because you justify it with Jesus. Come out from their midst. That's what the Jewish Christ of Joseph Smith is going to tell Mormons. Get out of Utah. Let's go to Zion, where we can be at peace, safety, and refuge. And oops, Mormons missed it in 2020. Because you're not looking for a man like Moses. Because Moses, what did he do? Oh yeah, that Exodus thing. Yeah, I saw the movie. I know all about it. Charlton Heston and the porno Egyptian queen. Moses. Literal history, not a symbolic prophecy of the latter days whatsoever, despite the Jew who wrote Deuteronomy saying that, yeah, it's a type and shadow of the man like Moses. And so, yes, you're looking for a Mormon who will sue the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And in that same year, creeping death will come, and there will be the 3 days of solar eclipses over that land, which is the United States, in case you hadn't caught on. And it will form the letter A in Paleo-Hebrew, as well as the last letter of Paleo-Hebrew, which is not Omega. It's the chi shape from Greek. And it's incorrectly referred to as Tau because of Babylonian Semitic Hebrew. You know, when the Jews got taken hostage. Their times are fulfilled. Seal up the testimony among them and bind up the law. Judgment Day. So, there you have it. And so, to review this past little while here, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been warning Mormons indirectly and vaguely and non-specifically that this is it. This is the latter days. And they refuse to acknowledge and explain to us the signs in the heavens, therefore. We're supposed to speculate on what they were. Because Monson came out and said, no, the tetrad where Perry Packer Scott bit the big one is not the latter days. Nope. Anybody who thinks so is wrong. And then Monson dies on Revelation chapter 12, verse 4. Along with other signs that happened in that same chapter. And so, yeah, you're being led astray. They're keeping secrets from you. They're not protecting you. They're even sabotaging you. They came out since last year saying, hey, look at us. We're meeting with Islamic religious and government leaders. Aren't we the chosen ones? They're doing business with them. It's not giving them the Book of Mormon, even though they do. But they can read 1 Nephi, chapter 1, verse 2. Learning of the Jews. So it doesn't matter if the church claims to be Christian and that Jesus is our Christ. They're going to read Jews. And so this embracing of Islam is setting a trap for Mormons. Because Islam will play along with you. Because that's what the Queen of Arabia said. Which technically she's the Princess of Arabia. The sister of Mohammed bin Salman. Muhammad, son of Solomon, which is a symbolic name for Islam, as he's the prophet who replaced the Jewish Christ, the man like Moses, who is Solomon to David. And I had to go into a whole video to explain that for you, and I've already done that. And anyway, we're at 33 minutes. And I already got my message out. Oh, you missed it? You have to play it again to find it? What is my message? What am I talking about? Why am I rambling? Back in 2020, also the waters were parted and dry land made it so the Mormons could have passed through on dry ground. Pass over to go to Zion. Mormons refused and stayed behind. Left behind. A Christian reference. Nicolas Cage did a version of it. I should watch that today. I'm still watching 24, but I should watch that. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff to watch too. Anyway. And so they happened in 2020. And so in 2020, I came out and told the missionaries to come home. Told your parents, get your kids home. It is not safe for them to be out on their missions right now. And they didn't listen. And they died. There are numerous reportings of missionaries who died because Nelson refused to bring them home and keep them home until it pass over. And Mormons don't blame Nelson. And now I'm hearing people talk about how insignificant it was and how, oh, those mean doctors who are misinforming us. It was the worst humanitarian crisis that the world had ever faced, other than World War II. And yet we now have denialists that are now creeping up. And so, the church is now embracing Islam. Came out with a pamphlet, we're Islamists too. And if you don't know, Islam is the religion, Muslim is the culture. And so for the church to claim that we are a culture and a religion is false, because we're all over the world and Nelson did away with our culture. And now is going to Muslims saying, hey, we're a culture too. No, we're not. You took away our culture. We have a cultural hall for the sole purpose of cultural events. And then under Monson, when he was an apostle, we got basketball courts put in. There's Mormon stories about this. But regardless, and then we get singles ward and basketball Mormon videos that I refuse to watch. But nonetheless, and the church, I'm losing my train of thought. What do we come home, right? And so, conference begins the Jewish holy day of the Feast of Tabernacles, ingathering, Sukkot, the gathering of Israel. The church starts it off. And on the last day, boom, Hamas attacks Israel with that major attack that people are now denying and blaming the Jews for defending themselves for. And we get word from the church with the first presidency, finally, about the war. They give a first presidency statement, and they say there are good people on both sides. Stop the violence. Excuse me? Israel is defending themselves. Netanyahu is purposely hesitating to do the ground war. The news was pre-press of a ground war. This is what it'll look like when he starts the ground war. And he hasn't done it. And Hamas is holding hostages. Netanyahu is being merciful and only doing rocket attacks. And among the rocket attacks is the hospital, which, because Netanyahu was merciful and did not begin the ground assault, a Palestinian Islamic Jihad fired missiles at their own people at the hospital, for which the Israelis were blamed. And the whole world of Islam are now violently protesting. blaming the Jews, demanding the extermination of the Jews. And the UN is demanding that Israel stop. The Red Cross demanding that they get in and give aid to the Palestinians who are supporting Hamas, who are terrorists, who caused it. Hezbollah has joined in against Israel and are now waging the war on Israel in the south, north of Gaza. The world has begun Armageddon. And so, because of the first presidency statement, a rabbi comes out and says, I can't believe the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints betrayed us Jews. I thought we had a good relationship. The church would come out last night with a rabbi who had watched conference, gives his thoughts and prayers on how wonderful it was that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints preaches about Jesus, a rabbi, which was a response to the rabbi in Utah who condemned the church. So they get another rabbi who tells people what Mormons want to hear. This is how evil the church is. And so, because of the first presidency statement, Biden goes to Israel, not to the Palestinians, and says, we support Israel, we're giving you weapons and other support. We're kind of shut down as we're being cooed right now, so Congress can't give you money. But we sent just an aircraft carrier and some other weaponry to the defense as we are fighting off an attack from Yemen, which has to do with this war in Israel. And so we are at war against Islam, as Islam treats America as the enemy for supporting Israel. And the church, after the first presidency statement, after Biden comes and inflames the rage over the hospital attack and him supporting Israel, the church then tells us that the Jerusalem Center is being evacuated and they flee to Greece. It's actually before that, wasn't it? Because it was the first presidency statement. I'm getting the time frame mixed up. Gotta have the time frame in its order. And so, yeah, it was the first presidency statement that caused the Jerusalem Center, or the people to come home now, wasn't it? Or was it the other way around? But I think they fled. I can't remember anymore. I should have had this written down on notes so that I could read it. I have associative memory. I don't memorize. And so this is the weakness you see with associative memory. Because I have reference books, so I don't have to memorize. But I have associative memory. I know the events that happened. I just need a reference so that I can put them in their order and whatever. So, humiliations galore. But now we find out that Greece is no longer safe for the students. And they're coming home. and thus sparked my video yesterday to tell you about bring the missionaries home, because the church isn't doing it. The missionaries are in greater danger than those students who were at BYU Jerusalem Center and then went to Greece. See, there's a difference. And this is a shameful thing for all Mormons. The students who go to the Jerusalem Center have to fork out a lot of extra money. You have to pay for the trip to get over there. You have to pay for your time there. And you're still paying for your semester of BYU. And so it's not like going to BYU. You have to pay extra money. And so the Mormons who can afford to go there are from rich families. Yeah, that's why they're coming home. Because Greece was no longer safe for them either. And their rich parents are concerned about their rich, spoiled kids. And the pressure was simple and easy to do. They got the hotline to Nelson or Oaks. And the church listens and are bringing them home. But not the missionaries. They need to be brought home. Bring the missionaries home. Technically, we need to go to Zion so that we can be the only place on earth that is having peace, safety, and refuge. But Mormons won't listen to their Christ, because they are looking for Jesus to tell them, to tell the leaders of the church. And I read to you, you are being set up in this valley to be destroyed, because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints considers you wicked with your westernized culture, your pursuit of entertainment, rather than studying your scriptures and being loyal to the church, having babies rather than going on a mission. I'm talking about women. Nelson came out earlier this year in May to the youth, to 16-year-old girls. You need to get married in the temples, obviously, and start breeding. Don't worry about the economy. Start breeding. He was purposely setting you up, because 16-year-old girls who obeyed him would then get married in June. He gave it in May. And so then you got to give a couple of weeks to find a guy and then have him propose. And then arrange for the temple marriage in June. And so in June, you get pregnant. And so here we are in October. July, August, September, October. Allison Krogan obeyed. She's looking beautiful. Good job, Allison. You're 4 months pregnant. What does Matthew warn you about the day that shall burn as an oven? Pray that it is not on the Sabbath. Is it the Jewish Sabbath or the Christianized edition by Constantine? for Sunday. Pray that it is not in winter. And pray that you're not pregnant or nursing. Do you see what Oaks did to you in May? Those Mormon girls who are obedient were being set up. So yeah, I'm worried about Allison. But she's not my problem. I don't even think she's Mormon. I don't know. There's issues on that. But regardless, do you see the danger you're in? Those who are ex-Mormons, yeah, the church already considers you unworthy. Heathen, apostate Korah whores. You already know this. But if you're living in this valley, you too are in great danger. Just leaving the church is insufficient. Now, I know you don't believe in Joseph Smith because you believe Brigham Young. And so you don't care to be a part of any kind of Mormonism, to go to a place that is the only place on earth that will be at peace, safety, and refuge. But we need to get there. And your Christ, as prophesied, is here in the target zone, risking his life to call the missionaries home and to get Mormons to listen to leave the church and this valley. You do not want to know what it's like to be in a war. America has been protected from the horrors of war, except for our soldiers. But here in America, we've experienced relative peace, safety, and refuge. We have gang problems and mafia problems and religious corruption, but we haven't really experienced war, such that bombs go off as we're trying to go shopping to get groceries. Transportation isn't getting blown up while we're trying to go to church. We have not seen the horrors of war yet in this nation. 9/11, yeah, finally, since the Civil War. But there's some problems with that. But who was the enemy? Islamists. They were from Saudi Arabia, not Iraq. That was part of the war crimes of the Bush administration. But, nonetheless, this is a longer video. It was supposed to be short, but I found the quotes. And so it was just the other month, wasn't it? Or was it earlier? No, it was the other month. It was before conference. When I did my Jonah and the Whale video. I literally have a prop. why do I keep doing videos for Mormons when Mormons won't listen? They see me as an apostate Korahor. And so they seal their own fate. It's going to be very sad when that day comes, whenever it comes. If it's Black Friday, I don't know. That's just a 9/11 day. It's on a Friday. But we now know the enemy. Because MAGA couldn't do it. They failed. Evangelicals failed. Our government failed. A former asterisk president failed. And when you're a failure, you don't get to say, and live from New York, it's Saturday night. Losers don't get to do that. Saturday Night Live, did you miss it? It's on YouTube. The cold open.